I totally understand fans being frustrated at our current position in the league. Why wouldn't you be? We have come off of two very good consecutive seasons in a row, playing a mixture of free flowing football, scoring quite a lot of goals, still conceding no, but scoring more goals than we do concede. Two top seven finishes in a row, a European semi finalists. And we really were unfortunate not to really go on and win the tournament. Roll the title. Good afternoon and welcome back to the West Ham Network for your live West Ham Daily. I'm Anton. If you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. Please leave your comments. We will be interactive as much as we possibly can. Leave us your honest feedback. We're not bothered. We're thick-skinned. We can take it. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in becoming a channel member. Hit that join option as well. There is a little cheeky bell notification. If you hit that bell notification, you will be notified when our shows do go live. And today's are really about having a little bit of an opinionated piece, really. I just wanted to get my point across regarding the David Moyes situation. And I'm hearing fans saying that they want him sacked. And I'm hearing fans saying that they want other managers in. And I'll kind of putting it out on the table where I'm at as a fan, as a West Ham fan, and I'm going to put it out there today. So keep your comments coming in. Let me know your thoughts on what I say. I get people will disagree with me. I understand that, but that's part and parcel of, doing and putting your voice out there as well. So I know there's plenty of people in the chat, and I will come on to it in a second. But for me, this is where I'm at. So a huge amount of investment in the team, investment that many of us fans asked for many a transfer window, players that meet the criteria rather than signing big money players who don't add value. Let's be brutally honest here. Would we have invested this amount of money in the quality of the players that we have if Moyes had not transformed this side? Yes, you have heard me right. Transformed. Now, I don't want to be a broken record. However, this is where I am at. Let's rewind slightly back to November 2017. We appointed Moyes at the time. And I think and would have thought that the majority of the West Ham fans called it a very underwhelming addition to the team. We were a team in the relegation zone. And fast forward to the end of the season, we survived. And what happened? He kept us up. He kept us up in the league. Now, many a fan I spoke to at the time had suggested that we should have kept faith with David Moyes at that time. But I also can't help but feel that a very loud crowd of West Ham fans contributed to the change. So much so that the board listened and did not renew his contract. Some would see that as an unfair decision. Now, I'm going to hold my hand up and say I was one of those fans that was happy to see Moyes leave the club and that we would bring someone else back in and see if we could progress up the leagues as we possibly could. And at the time, we were linked to a whole host of managers, but we ended up with Pellegrini as a well-thought-of manager who won the title with Man City. He'd only been in China for a couple of seasons before returning to Europe with West Ham. And at the time, David Sullivan released a very, you could say, odd statement on the West Ham website, more or less saying, this is what the fans wanted, and this is what the fans will get, and this is what we're going to give to them. And let's just say the rest is history. Do we want a repeat of that again? Would we get a repeat of that again? Now, I'm not saying that would necessarily happen if Moyes was to leave the club. However, when Pellegrini left the club, the joint owners, with mud in their face, approached Moyes again about a return to the club, and he did just that. As soon as he arrived, he made some some would say would be simple tweaks to the side. He changed the fitness levels. He addressed areas of the pitch that we had been needing addressed for such a long time. And we absolutely did need those areas addressed. And they had been needing addressed for such a long time. And he established a very hard-working West Ham team. His recent success has not come overnight. And I honestly do believe that some people do forget where we have come from. I get it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong if you want Moyes out, if you want him sacked. I'm not saying you're right if you don't. I'm merely trying to point out the fact that for the first time in a very long time, as a club, we have some form of stability. And we have attracted world-class talent with a current crop of world-class players, Declan Rice to be exact. So we survived relegation, followed up by 2 top 7 finishes in a row. A European semi-final is nothing to be really coy about. We're unbeaten in Europe this season. Yes, okay, it's the 3rd tier, but you could argue we have utilised the squad a lot in Europe. We sit 13th after 13 games, only 6 points from 6th place, but also 3 points from the relegation zone, with a lot of new players that were brought in to start or at least challenge the current crop of players that we have. And let's not be naive enough to know change takes time. Injuries happen, and therefore we sometimes start with the same team that we had last year. The team that got us to the European semi-final, the same team that some people, yes, last season, got frustrated with because our Premier League form dipped. Man, we got further in Europe than many other British teams did last year, and we were showing promising signs in Europe again this season. Fingers crossed we can continue that form. But as Moyes has stated, the Premier League is the bread and butter. So what's gone wrong? Has anything gone wrong? Moyes man management is a frustrating thing. It is. I'm not going to lie to you, and it's a frustrating thing for many fans out there. Let's look at Jared Bowen when he signed. He did not regularly start for the club, and he was bedded in slowly, but look how that worked out. It did him the world of good. I suppose the statement there you could say is, keep the faith. Now, we find ourselves this season with several new world-class players brought in. Let's look at Scamacca, a striker brought in to completely change the dynamics of our forward line. Someone that can do what Antonio does, but can also shoot from distance and get stuck in deep in the park. He didn't start the season as a starter, but it looked like he was going to get a run of games, then came down with a virus, resulting in West Ham relying on who? Antonio once again. Paqueta, I mean, do I really need to tell you what sort of player this geezer is? A run of games showing up exactly why Moyes brought him in. A hard-working, creative, progressive footballer who feeds Scamacca and any other player in that team. A player that is really getting into his groove until he picked up that injury. Cornet, heavily involved in goals scored and creations, goals created. And he's a progressive player who is also and could be a game changer when he's fit. Aguerd, injured at the start of the season, looks like a complete and utter baller at the back. Someone who will completely change the dynamics, absolutely change the dynamics of how West Ham move up the field, how we defend and how we move up the park. I mean, I'm not going to go through all the players that we brought in, but I just thought I'd bring up these particular 4 players that can really be game changers. And the squad is having to dig deep and work hard to keep ourselves within reach. We should have got something at Chelsea. Minimum a point. And if it wasn't for VAR, we would have walked away with a minimum a point in that game. We're really unlucky not to walk away with the 3 points versus Spurs. Unlucky not to walk away with at least a point versus Liverpool and Man United. Another 5 points on the board, and we would be 7th. Now, listen, hindsight's a wonderful thing. I get that. I absolutely understand that. And we can't live the world in ifs, buts, or maybes. But the wonderful thing, the thing that I have noticed a lot is that we are creating chances, something that we never used to do a lot. If we were not, I would be heavily worried. My word, we are creating chances with 3 central defensive midfielders in our team. In a nutshell, I'm saying keep the faith. Let's see how we are after the World Cup. Let's see who comes back fit and how we start, and if we can start putting that ball in the back of the net. That's the key element for me, putting that ball in the back of the net and making sure we start to drive up that league. But we are in that transition mode, and I get it. I get the frustration, but we have to acknowledge the transition mode. You have to. We can't completely come away from that. Last year, we had the same team coming week in and week out. Fans were getting pissed off with it. So what? We bring in players and you don't give them time to bed in? It doesn't work for me. You have to give them the time to bed in. That's how I am, and that's where I put my name and put my message on the line there. I'm going to come into the chat and see what everyone else is saying, see who agrees or disagrees with me. Toby Sampson's in there. He says, Irons. Luthers, hi all. Good to see you. Papa Firth, afternoon, Irons. Good to see you too. Good afternoon, people. It's not just our skin that's thick. Yep, you can say that. To be honest, I've had enough of him and his boring football. We've won 4 away games in 364 days. He has not won in 70 attempts against the big boys. Same tactics, same result. But hindsight is a wonderful thing, Amit. Like, I get it, but people are wanting, in my opinion, instant success. And I don't think that was ever going to happen. I think, yes, we have a bedding in period. Yes, it was mentioned you're having a bedding in period. All clubs around the world get a bedding in period unless you're a multi-billionaire unit. Like, we're not a multi-billionaire unit, but we've brought in quality players that will click and connect. And we've had just a bit of unluck with injuries. And last year, we were saying, these players need rested, these players need this, these players need that. We've got that this year, but they're not going to get the results there. You know, I get it. There's a time limit. I get it's a dog-eat-dog in the Premier League, but for me, the time has to be given. The time has to be given. You can't spend that money and then chuck the guy out the door. We're 6 points. The squad, I said it earlier on, the squad are working so hard to keep West Ham there or thereabouts. We're 13th, like I said, 3 points from down at the bottom 4, 6 points from the top 6. Win against Crystal Palace, and we start pushing our way back up the league again. Win against Leicester City, and we could be, depending on results around us, further up the league again. And then you've got the likes of Paqueta, Cornet, Aguerd, just to name a few, coming back into the team. So there is signs of potential better times at West Ham, but also signs of not so much. Have a nice afternoon from Simon. Darius is in the house. Go Irons. Toby Sampson says, I agree, Amit. I fancy us to win the championship at the moment. Toby, come on, mate. Even all from Darren. Andy, for me, his time is up. If we're to progress, history is history for me. It counts for very little this season. Form and style is very short of the mark, especially spending 180 million. But do you take the situation that I'm saying, like when we bring players in, when we lose players to injury, very unfortunate injury records, and when they come back, we need the time for those players to come in and gel, and I think it will happen. DJ says, I get that, totally understand, but over our history, we've had so much yo-yoing. This is the longest period we've been in the top flight, I believe, absolutely, but we are consistently sitting where we not where we want to be right now, but over the last 2.5 years, I don't want. Listen, I've seen many people talk about the situation. I've seen many people say, "Do I want progression at the club?" I absolutely do. But I want longevity. I don't want short-term success for long-term pain. I want long-term success, and I'll take the short-term pain with that. You know, we have. Listen to the vision of what David Moyes said when he came back to the club. He's now invested. You can't just go, arrivederci, mate. See you later. Let's bring in someone like Pochettino, who doesn't necessarily going to get success overnight. It doesn't happen that way. So we'll see. Loyalty goes both ways as well. Who's your replacement? Interested to know who. DJ Rusty B's in the house. Afternoon, everyone. All right, Anton. Thank you, Adam, for joining us, mate. You're all talking to each other. This is good. Ralph says there's a brilliant post from someone, and it's been posted on Twitter that should be read, Anton. Yeah, well, put it, Ralph, if you can find it, put it in the chat, and I'll read it out loud. Basically, he buys a striker, then doesn't have creative player to give him the ball, plays a central defensive midfielder as a number 10. I get that, but the question I'm going to ask to you, Amit, is who would you have played in there? And if you turn around, and many fans will turn around and say to me, well, we've got likes of Lanzini, we've got the likes of Fornals. Fornals has been this kind of central defensive midfielder really anyway. He's got that bit of creativity. But last season, if Lanzini had started, the fans would have gone through David Moyes. Absolutely gone through him. So Moyes, I don't know what else he can do. We're creating opportunities on the park. We are absolutely creating chances. If we weren't creating chances, I'd get many people's frustrations. We're just not putting the ball in the back of the net. It's as simple as that. Like 15, 20 chances each game, and we're not putting the ball in the back of the net. And I think if we weren't creating chances, that should be the concern for people. But if you are creating chances, at some point, something will click and we'll start putting that ball in the back of the net. I'm that confident of it. That's the biggest thing they say in football. When you're a young lad and you're playing football and you go through a dry spell, if you're not creating chances, there's a concern, but you are. You are. And then it's up to the job for people to put it in the back of the net. People slagged off Scamacca coming off the park at Old Trafford, but the guy was on the cusp of getting a red card. I thought he had a really good game, but they could see what United were doing to him. They could see what Manchester United were doing to him. And in actual fact, sitting with my dad, sitting talking about it, he's like, I can see Scamacca having to come off the field. We're going to have to take that hit because you can't afford for him to get the sending off. And I agreed. I don't think you can. Papa Firth says, I don't want him sacked, but I'm sick and tired of our lack of attacking tactics. We have a team that can compete but sit back. 2 goals in the first half all season. Why can't we play with purpose? I agree with the sentiment, Papa. I really do. But I think that we've had a stop-start season. I think if we think about that, what I said earlier on, Scamacca not getting having the virus, and then we gained a little bit of momentum, and then the Newcastle game was cancelled. And I think that really didn't help our circumstances. So it's been topsy-turvy. Then suddenly Paqueta's out, Cornet's out. These guys are on the cusp of coming back just before we're about to stop. It's so frustrating. It really is, because I think that if we had gone into this October period with a fully fit Paqueta, a fully fit Cornet, a fully fit Aguerd, if, yes, I get it, things may have been a little bit different. Ludders, we invested in the team, but 5 out of the 8 new players have been injured and have not played. We were scoring goals for fun. Scoring those goals helped us win games, whereas we're losing games. Absolutely, but I think it can come, Ludders. I really do. It's a work in progress. We still need 3 or 4 players to be top 6 consistently, constantly, so Moyes should have time after the last seasons. I do agree with you, Adam, mate. The last 50 minutes against Man United was mind-blowing. The fact that Benrahma has more European appearances for West Ham than any other Hammer in history shows where we are now as a club. I do agree with that. I totally do. And I get that fans may turn around and go, the fuck's he talking about? Like, surely he wants progression at the club. Sure, he wants this and wants that. Absolutely, I do. But I'm entitled to my own opinion. And I think the progression at the club is happening right now. I said it when I'd done a show with Russ. If we go into October and we lose 7 or 8 games in a trot, then bang, we're bang in trouble, and it's going to be tough to defend Moyes, but we haven't, and we've kept ourselves here. Our squad is knocking their patterns in to keep themselves within reach, and we are keeping ourselves within reach. We haven't gone further down the league like Leicester. We haven't gone down the further league than Nottingham Forest. Yes, we're only a few points away, but we got some of the victories, some of the points we needed to push up the league as much as we can. Again, if we can get players coming back for the Palace game, and we can get players coming back for the Leicester game, and then they can connect again, and you can see the best of Scamacca, the best of Paqueta, and the best of Cornet. Like, it is exciting times. It is absolutely exciting times. Troy says, got to suffer the transitional period. Troy, I completely agree with you, mate. We do. I think we've got to go through that transitional period. It's essential. Like, it's the first time in such a long time. This is what Moyes has changed. When we brought in all those players under Pellegrini, at the time you were excited, but we've learned that that's not necessarily what was right. But Moyes has taken his time to build these players, and I think it's just about reminding ourselves where we were at last season. Yes, Premier League form hasn't been great for over a year, but something had to give because we challenged at Europe, and we're doing it again this year, and we're keeping ourselves there or thereabouts. 13 games into the season, we're not where we want to be. Moyes is recognising we're not where we want to be. He's recognising we're not putting the ball in the back of the net, but he's planning to try and change that. If we had played football in the first 60 minutes rather than the tight and negative than those games you mentioned, we'd have got those points. We have to acknowledge Moyes is the issue. Well, no, not necessarily. Like the Chelsea game, like VAR is what held us back. We could have gone on to win that game. Tottenham, we drew. We could have won it. Liverpool, I get it, but let's be brutally honest here, Amit. The first 20 minutes, we were in control with high intensity against Liverpool. They scored the goal. It knocked us for 6. For the next 25 minutes, we struggled, but the second half, we came out all guns blazing. We had chances, couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, had a penalty, couldn't put the ball in the back of the net. Whose fault's that? Whose fault's that? Like, people are saying, why are we playing Flynn Downs? Who do you put in there? Like, I get it. I get people want Antonio and Scamacca. I get it. I think it will happen at some point in this season, but that's it, really. He hasn't had an opportunity to play his first 11 with Aguerd, Paqueta, etc. Sharky's in the house. James Bong is saying we've just unluckily been beaten 1-0 at Anfield and Old Trafford. Just imagine what some of the fans would have been saying back in John Lyle's days when we turn over and we had our belly rubbed there. Yep. Simon says, look, when we have all of these new players on the pitch for a run of games, absolutely. Andy says, this season we've lost the first half 7 games and only retrieved 2 draws. Not good enough. But again, it falls on how much time are you willing to give? Are you willing to let the transition period happen? I mean, I'm trying to put it into other circumstances. You start a new job and you bring an apprentice in or whatever. You bring someone in, you pay. They're going to have a bedding in period. You may rub up someone the wrong way, and then you quickly learn. No, I don't do it that way. I do it in a different way. You do it in the Moyes way, and it takes time. It absolutely takes time. You've got a player that comes in that doesn't speak a lot of English in Paqueta, and he's still giving us the performance he's given us. He's been a big loss for West Ham because we've seen what he is capable of doing. He is like a knife slicing through butter. He is absolutely progressive. Great footballer. Aguero and Zuma in defence, and we can start getting some clean sheets and push further up the pitch. But Trots, I don't think we're necessarily conceding shitloads of goals. Like, we're just not scoring the goals. And you have to outscore what you concede to win games, absolutely. But I'm not necessarily worried about our defence, if I'm being really honest. I'm really not. It's not an area of concern for me. I'm just concerned about, I'm not concerned that we're not creating chances. We're creating chances. We're just not putting the ball in the back of the net. Pochin, not for me. Lyle could have easily been sacked earlier on in his tenure. Absolutely, Vinay. The team is improving and Moyes has been more positive in his tactics. Moyes could be bonkers, though. Start Fab in front of Areola and getting Fab to distribute like Areola. Bonkers and not nice. I get it, but no one's perfect. I do agree with that. His man management of specific players has been questionable at times, but equally, though, we have moved forward as a club. I don't see us moving back. If at the end of the season, we're sitting 13th, 14th, not won a cup, I will be disappointed. Will I call for Moyes' head? Absolutely not. I want to give him a chance. He's got to get the chance for me. Not for me, mate. Simon, not for me. Aguero's passing drives players naturally forward. He is a game changer. He will change the dynamics of the full West Ham team from the back. And I must admit, I was really impressed with Areola when he came off the bench against Manchester United, because I think it was really clear to see his distribution was a lot better. So he's obviously going to get a bit of a run of games as well with the news of Fabianski's injury. So progressive football, absolutely. Ludders, Anton, we always have injuries for whatever reason. Corney was supposed to have a slight strain, and 9 games later he's had a setback. No good having all these quality players if we get relegated. But do you think we will? I don't think we will. I really don't. I don't want to absolutely. Aguero will get the forwards and wingers making runs, Troy, absolutely, and he'll be able to find them with forward pass along with Paqueta. How are you going to sack Moyes after less than half a bad season? It's a project. Let's give him more than a few months. I agree with you, Toby, mate. I do. Moyes is under pressure so much. If we don't win v Palace, he has to go. No, Dalek, mate. You're entitled to your opinion, not for me. Look at Brighton and Newcastle. They're giving it a go against the big boys. Moyes shows too much respect to the so-called Big Six, hence the win record he's got. Papa, the question I'll ask to you, though, is, and I'm not digging you out, mate. Please understand I'm not digging you out. Would you rather be Brighton? I'm going to remove Newcastle from the circumstances because they're ran by stupid money. But I'm going to bring Brighton into the equation. Would you rather be Brighton over the last 2.5 seasons or West Ham? Brighton can give it a go. Can, absolutely. More than welcome. But their stability is staying in the league. That's what they've always said they're going to do. They want to and need to stay in the league. West Ham are trying to challenge. And right, okay, we're not challenging right now because we're sitting 13th, but we're not far off it with our best players missing. Game-changing players missing as well. For me, all day long, I would rather be West Ham. All day long. In actual fact, even with Newcastle in the equation, all day long, right now, I would rather be West Ham. Trosh says, would you bother making runs when you got Zuma and Johnson trying to find your 40-yard run? Dalek is saying Pochettino in. Luthers is saying, surely, though, putting the ball in the back of the net is the most important thing of the game, but we're not doing it despite all the chances created. Luthers, completely right. But in football, like at youth level, if there's a young player who's not finding the back of the net, the biggest compliment that a manager gives to that player is, don't worry about it. It will come. Because if you're finding the chances, it will come. You hit a dry spell. All strikers hit a dry spell. All teams hit a little bit of a dry spell. This is our driest spell we've had in such a long time. But we are creating 15, 20 chances a game. Rewind 3 seasons ago, we were nowhere near that. We were struggling to break that chance creation for double figures. We're doing it. It's going to come. I have the faith it's going to come. We're slowly but surely repairing our back line. We're not conceding as much as we used to concede, and we just need to repair that goal scoring thing. Also, I think we need Fornals when we play on the counter. Mistake playing downs. Trosh says when we turned over all the top teams, Fornals was key in the transition from defence to attack. Michael says we only play to our full potential in the last 20 minutes, 70 minutes of parking the bus. Who formal Poch ain't coming here, neither would Tuchel. I can't deal. But Poch didn't win anything with Spurs. They choked in Champions League. He goes to PSG and he loses the title in the first season to Lille. Is he the answer? Poch would come because we've got the players. James says yes. Sack Moyes just hasn't had his shooting boots on. Possibly, but he can get us into the Champions League like he did with Spurs. Papa says, totally agree, Anton. However, if we haven't got number 10, then why not play with 2 up front? Downs is great, but not a 10. I think the thing, and I could always say this, I suppose that it's maybe an easy cop-out answer, but hindsight's a wonderful thing. We will never know, but I think what Moyes has done is try to give us a chance at these games. I've been to West Ham, Liverpool at Anfield so many times. We've watched it so many times, and I've been there so many times, and I've turned up at those games, and we're getting smashed 4 or 5-0. I then hear the other side of the argument say, oh, well, that's not an excuse because you should be turning up and trying to win. Look at what Leeds are doing. That's what people will say to me. Look at what Leeds doing. They went at those teams. Do you want to, the question is, not to you, Papa, but do you want to be Leeds? Do you want to be in their boots right now? Not for me. We're on a project. That's not what I want. I get it. I don't want to be Brighton. I don't want to be Leeds. I get going to these games and trying to do it, but there's a progression route we're trying to take. So, nah. Fornals needs a goal so badly. He's my favourite, but he needs to take some of them chances, and then this confidence will go through the roof. Trosh says Fornals well off form. I think that's the only reason Down's got a nod. Vinay says, I am Moyes in for now because I think he will win the Conference Cup, but he is a defensive manager who expected to be attacking, can't work long term. And I think that will change, though, Vinay, when Paqueta, Cornet, and Aguerd come back because they're progressive thinking players. Don't doubt for a second Paqueta walks straight into that team, Aguerd walks straight into that team, and Cornet will have to fight to get into that team. But those 3 particular players are forward thinking and actually, in my opinion, change the dynamics of how West Ham play football, actually change the style of play that we play. We've had to resort back to defensive mind in football because we've had those injuries, which has had a negative impact on Scamacca, which has had to make Scamacca drop even deeper, work even harder to get involved, to win the ball, to bring other players into the park. We saw a little snippet of what Aguerd is capable of doing, albeit against Silkeborg. My word, the guy's a baller, and I think he's going to be fantastic alongside Zuma. Paqueta, shit, man, I don't need to keep going on about it, you know? Why don't we play Lanzini instead of Souček? The question to you is, and the question to everyone else is, that happened last year, mate. People would have gone through the roof. There's no pleasing people sometimes, and me included. When Moyes was at Everton, we hardly got any points from them. English Artie, Anton, to me, I don't think we will see Paqueta until after the World Cup. Brazilian Federation, especially the doctors, are probably cautious with him. Interesting point. I think if he's not playing or featuring in anything over the next 2 games, that's Europe and Crystal Palace included, then I'll agree with you. But if he's at least in the match they scored for Palace, then I think we'll see him there. Anyway, wouldn't sack Moyes. Scamacca needs support. No doubt him and Paqueta are showing signs. He has that in Raspadori. Raspadori's looking the business as well, doesn't he? Well said, Irons Lady. So it's probably the current winner, wife's parents and grandparents. Lotta says, last season we were scoring for fun. This season we aren't, yet we're still playing basically the same team, but we were also conceding a lot of goals last year as well. And I don't think at the latter stages of West Ham last season we were scoring for fun. I think in Europe we were, but I think we were kind of chopping and changing that up in the Premier League. But yeah. Pep is a personal friend of mine, and he told me West Ham have only got to ask and he would drop City in a heartbeat. Matt Foster, when it finally clicks with all the new players, we will batter someone. I honestly, Matt, put my neck on the line again. I agree with you, mate. And the transition, yes, has happened at times, but we'll be happy for that transition is going on in the Championship next season. If we don't pick up 2 wins in the next 2 games, could go into the... Again, mate, I don't agree. I want the results over the next couple of games. I'll take 4 off your hands now. I want 6, but I'll take 4. We'll we've started every game this season so slow, which allows other teams to get confident. And after we go 1-0 down, we wake up. We need to sort this out. Adam, I agree. But then I'm going to go back to, let's look at Ben Johnson, for example. Ben Johnson has had to play right wing back, right back, and the right of a central defence. There's one player, because of injuries that we did not expect to have, that's forced Ben Johnson to play out of position so many times. Then what happens? Fans get on his back because he's not performing to the highest of standards. He's not performing to the highest of standards because he's covering so many different positions. Nobody thought we would be in that situation with our defence where we would lose Zuma, Dawson, Oggy, and Aguerd. Nobody thought that. And then we'd play Kira, Johnson, Cresswell, Sifal in the back four. Nobody thought that. And that alone changed the dynamics of our team. Absolutely. I prefer Moyes to Tuchel or Ten Hag. Cup in the bottom three from Andy. We don't need Pep. You're unusual sort of Moyes I trust. As per the relegation, I'll offer 2-1 odds on anyone that is willing to bet that we are going to go down. There you go. Put your money where your mouth is. Anyone go to the game in Bucharest? Let us know if you are. Aguero is a very good player. Love his direct passes. Always looking for a forward pass. You are completely right. Mates, you are. There's someone crazy in the chat. West Ham all day long, but this is all about tactical mentality. Adam Cook, we won't finish bottom three at worst mid-table, but I think top 8 and win the Conference League. From Adam, can anyone remember the last time we got done by 4 or 5? Matt, but do you know what, Toby? People will then say, oh, what, so you're going to accept a 1-0 loss? No, nobody's going to accept a 1-0 loss. Nobody's going to accept a loss in general. But fight, give us something, try, and work hard. And you can't take away from the fact that for 70, 80 minutes for the Man United game and the Liverpool game that we did not give it a go at some points in that game, more than we've ever done before. Like, shit, man. Not surprised that Scammy is frustrated. The fans are frustrated as well. When Corny and Paqueta return along with Aguerd, he will smash them in. I do, mate. I do. Paul, West Ham are crap. Moyes out. We're going down. Cannot score. So Moyes, go down. Moyes, no clue. Paul, he's asking you to put some money on it. Agree, we're not getting thumped like we used to, but it's still annoying losing, even if it is by the odd goal. I agree with you, it is. Mice Collective's back. I want Pooch as manager. Has been an aggressive breed. I'll give you 2-1 odds and £1,000. Oh my word, he's gone big. Next 2 matches, we're playing home. We need 6 points. That's the bottom line. The London Stadium, we just make it our fortress. No one comes to our patch and win. We need that mentality. Yep. Agreed. It is at learners, but perspective is key. Moyes has got this right up the table for 2 seasons, and people think we have the right to be up there. We've got so many new players. It needs time. Well said, Toby. Luthers, agree, Toby. We've been spoiled the last 2 seasons, and we expect to be higher in the league. We do expect that, but our form wasn't fantastic in the Premier League last year. It dipped away because we were focusing a lot on Europe, but we still finished in 7th place. I reckon we'll be back up there next year. Top 10 and a route into Europe again is a brilliant season. Project Moyes is blind loyalty to some players, irrespective of form. That does not help the player. Bonkers attitude to some players. He's playing Benny because of pressure from fans and the board. I don't know if he is. I don't think he is. I think he's actually, yes, just about to say it. I think he's been a bit consistent, to be honest. We have a strong team. I don't think Moyes will ever get everyone happy, and some just want to get him out and someone new in. Grass isn't always greener, which is I think one of the biggest point I was going to make. People are agreeing with each other in there. 6 wins at the London Stadium. When was the last time we did that? Yep. What if Eddie Howe made a video call here and begged us lobby for him to be the next West Ham manager? He was also wearing a West Ham kit and blowing bubbles. What would you do? I'm curious to see what the bookmakers say on our odds of Premier League survival. In the Moyes I trust. Well, listen, final one I'm going to do before I close off because I need to go back to work. Your Moyes in, your Moyes out. There's loads of you watching live right now, so put it in the chat. Let me know. Moyes in, Moyes out. Go for it. How ain't amazing? He just signed more British players. Less bedding in. Mice Collective, Moyes team talk. Okay, boys, not attacking. Keep it tight for an hour. Run like the headless chicken. Benny, don't attack. Benny can't understand his accent and attacks. Moyes in for now. I think Moyes comes across as stubborn, and his over-reliance on playing Souček suggests that. Oh, well, we'll see. I remember us losing by stupid amounts. This is the best in my lifetime. Up there, maybe I agree with you, yeah. Players like Trippier and Burns hit the ground running. Trippier, yeah, that's 2 players, though. You could questionably say Paqueta hit the ground running, but he's been injured, so it's knocked us. Cornet, in my opinion, hit the ground running, but he's injured. So There you go. Moyes sexual. Moyes collective. Moyes in for now. Alan Dunn says Moyes in. Matt Foster says Moyes in 100%. Ludder says Moyes in. Do a poll, you lazy jack. Oh man, you put me well under pressure. Let me see if I've got the time to do this quickly before I go. I mean, I'm not even eating lunch for you guys. That's what happens when I'm still working as well. Right. So let me see if I can quickly get you a poll up and running in the chat. I think I can. It's coming. So keep coming in with your Moyes in and your Moyes out. Malarkey. Right. Here we go. Start a poll. So the question I'm asking is Moyes in or out? Question mark. In. Let's see if I get it right this time. There you go. The poll is in for you. So let's see what everyone comes up with. Right. Do a poll. I've done that. I've done that for you. I've done it. Multitasking. Trosh says Moyes in. Michael Blee says in, or we'll end up with Warburton and Moyes. And Moyes we trust. Moyes in. Vinay says with reservations. Psychiator says Moyes out. Andy says Michael, God no, not Warburton. I will do it instead. What about Moyes? At the moment, I'm leaning to Moyes out, but could change. Adam says we need to get behind the team last 2 games before the World Cup and make the stadium noisy. It's been quite quiet lately, and we can use the players trying to get the crowd going. Moyes, what do you think? No lunch for Anton. It's not like me, mate. I'm absolutely starving. Toby, thank you, mate. It's much appreciated. I don't know. Some fans are so delusional they actually think Moyes picks players because of the. This is. Honestly, oh man, it's so funny. Quick lunchtime show to get us all arguing. I'm sorry, mate. I'm sorry. People are mind readers, don't you know? West Ham should appoint former River Plate manager. I don't know what you're going to say, Pellegrini. How is this even a conversation? It's just because I was asked to do it, mate. Right, I'm going to close off the poll. Quickly. You've got literally a few seconds. There's so many of you watching right now. You've got like 5. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to quickly answer on the poll. The poll is Moyes in or out. Quickly tick it and let me know your thoughts. And I'm going to click end the poll. I mean, it's literally heavily favouring in one way than the other. So just do that. Yeah, I'm a little bit cranky. Absolutely. Right, I'm going to close off the poll. The votes are in, and the answer is, for me closing off this show, Moyes in, 82% of people, Moyes out, 17%. So it does favour Moyes staying in the club. Last comment from you, Chris, mate. Against Man United, with 15 minutes to go, you could see Moyes going into the stands and having a chat with Warburton straight after we started playing great. Coincidence? There you go. Ralph, it's not my fault, mate. I'm trying to get people to interact with the polls, you know. Right, if you are watching, please hit the thumbs up. Please let us know. I hope you've enjoyed it. I didn't mean to give you rigged election. I didn't mean to give you the argument for a Tuesday afternoon. But join me 5 o'clock. I've got the giggles. Join me at 5 o'clock for the Hammers headlines, and you're going to start getting all your matchday content ahead of the game with Bucharest on Thursday, where I don't know who's going to play, but we'll see what happens moving forward. If you are new around here, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. If you're interested in becoming a channel member, let us know by clicking the join option and then join us on there. All that malarkey. Great show, Grumpy Bot. Stay safe, and of course, come on, you Irons. In Moyes I trust. Keep the faith. Come on, you Irons.
It's like a family tree.